Who needs to learn fancy 3D modeling in programs like Blender when you can just play Graffiti Kingdom on your PlayStation 2? A game that lets you create your own 3D models and you can battle with them in a fun, cute fantasy world. You really can create anything in this game, even your favorite anime girls. But the question is, why can you do that? Because you're a prince that is pretty spoiled and is allowed to do anything he wants to do since your parents just let you get away with it instead of scolding you. I wish I had parents like that, but instead I got the bell treatment, but that's just life in a way. So one day you fall down a secret path in the castle and pick up the graffiti wand that also accidentally unleashes the demon lord onto the world, who has a cool mustache. Other people would freak out and think it's the end of the world, but who cares about any of that when you got a new friend because of it, Pastel. A little dog that loves to trash you while being all cute. Because she's a lady and not just a simple dog, so she's a dog lady. I wish I had a dog like her, but sadly real dogs can't talk in a cute tsundere voice. Maybe for a good reason, or else a certain crime would suddenly spike in its crime rate, and we don't want that, do we? For every weeb out there who needs their dog to sound like a cute tsundere who makes fun of you all the time, use the under patch like I did. It unironically makes the game already 20% better. Especially since later you will also meet a skeleton that talks English in a typical anime style, and I love it.
Welcome, boy and dog.
Lady yo.
Oh, sorry, cutie lady dog.
For me, lots of the charm is lost with the horrible English dub, but there's also people who will think that the bad dub makes it also charming. In the end, it's up to you. I won't judge you, I promise. Follow your own path in life. Just like how the prince does anything he wants to do, he's also his own person, so he decides to be homophobic. Based or not based, that's also up to you to decide. It's also now up to you and the dog to put an end to the demon lord, and on your way you find tons of other charming characters like Tablet, who for some reason really loves to tickle the moth lady. I mean, I can't really blame him. The main selling point of the game was to be able to create anything you want and to play as it, and well, the game does not lie about it. At first I would tell you to just keep playing the game a bit before you try to make the creature of your dreams. It is a bit lacking at first with the abilities and functions you have. Take a look at my first try of creating a Nier. Not like I tried super duper hard anyways. You have to unlock more features like being able to use custom colors and things like that by playing the game and leveling up after defeating enough enemies. It's kinda there to not overwhelm you right at the start already, but even with the limited features you can already create something fun, if you put the effort into learning it. So it's up to you if you want to create something ugly, or if you want to already spend 7 hours building something that you look at and think, wow, I'm the best. Even though do artists even do that, mostly I see them hate everything they create. Since it's a PlayStation 2 game, the controls of this can be a bit finicky, and at first you're probably gonna be confused how all of this works, but the more you use it, the more you get to know it. No shit, call me Captain Obvious. You need to bring a bit of time to make things work. You don't really need to do something crazy though. I think the game is also funny enough when you make something really ugly looking and just test the limits of what the game allows you to do. The good thing is, the game is full of cute and charming designs, so even if you suck at making your own, you can still love it a lot when you find all of these cute cards. You can also use them as the base and just change the color around, or remove their weapons to give them other ones, or maybe give them a new hairstyle, or just change their attacks. There's 2 things you need to do to acquire more attacks and more monsters. You can transform into them, and that's how you acquire the abilities. And you should do that with almost everything you see, except if they look like they don't got any cool abilities. But even then some uncool enemies got some cool attacks like the diaper frogs. The diaper frogs may not look cool because they wear diapers, and diapers are really uncool unless you're a baby, and yes, I'm kink shaming you if you're into diapers, but they have a punch that if you use it onto water it makes an ice platform appear. It's really useful, so you gotta jump over your pride and put the diaper on, even just for a little bit. But now, since the ability is yours to use, you can also put it onto your own creation. Anything you learn from enemies you can also put onto your fella, except if it lacks certain body parts, like you can't use a cool new kick if your thing does not have legs kinda. And I love that this means you don't have to actually get their cards all the time. Sometimes you see an enemy and think, well, that dude is ugly, I don't want him. Just like in real life, then you don't need to, only quickly transform into him and let it be. And if they don't even look like they got any cool abilities, then you don't even need to do that either. But if you see a creature you want to be all the time, or you want to use them as the base of your own creation, you have to kill them, and maybe kill them again, and again, till they drop their card. Eventually you will get it. I have played Ragnarok online and I'm used to 0.02% drop rates on cards, so this was nothing in comparison. You can create and change your loadout at the checkpoints, and I wish you were able to change your attacks on the fly instead of being forced to only have 3 creatures with you. So you have to hope they cover a good enough variety of attacks or spells. Luckily, most of the time when being in a level that requires a specific attack, there's enemies around that can do those attacks, so you can transform into them. Like these switches can only be activated by the fitting element on it. Sadly, most of the time these switches don't really add anything at all, except for when you need to punch them to activate a door or something. Here I thought when you activate the switches, they make the platforms go up and down to give you something special, but instead they just make a platform appear that you can use, but you can just go around the edges here anyways, so what's the point? Especially in the room after, where it's even more useless to activate the platforms because you can just go straight through the middle. And to activate those, you even have to melt the ice first. Why do I have to put in so much effort to gain basically nothing? I already do that at work without getting a pay raise in over 21 years. And when it comes to the combat, the game will also give you a feeling of, was I supposed to do it like this? For better and worse. You may have a big arsenal of attacks eventually, but sometimes you find one attack that makes you think, why should I bother with any other attack? For me it was the big thunder explosion because it's so hacking strong. You have to load it for a bit, but when you unleash it, it shows the area in thunder and deals tons of damage. It made me wonder, why should I use anything else? Why use a measly fire punch, great manga that I would recommend to people who enjoy weird stuff, if I can just use this thunderstorm? But in the end, it's up to you. You are the master of the game and the game allows you to do it the way you want to do it. Unless you have to hit switches, but hey, it made me feel playing like one of the older Pokemon games where you always had an HM slave with you. In Graffiti Kingdom, I just used this cannon to fulfill the job of having a demon with me that can basically activate any switch. So I still had 2 other slots for creatures I could design however I wanted them to be. And if you don't want to have that, then the game almost always has an enemy around that you can transform into that lets you shoot the switches like this weird face dude. What a helpful little fella. The bosses also gave me the same feeling of, did I just cheese them with a super strong attack, since none of them really even have patterns. It feels like you're actually battling against another person who just spams their attacks like you do. They just run around trying to hit you and that's it basically. Most of them didn't really feel like bosses except for their bigger health bar. I know people hate gimmicky bosses, but in a game like this, I think they would have fit well. I mean, they tried at points, but also not really. There's this annoying butler who can't stop shaking his hips and I hate him a lot for that, who turns into a car and just drives around in the boss arena, so every time he drove past I hit him and it made me wonder, am I supposed to do it like this? And I asked myself that question for almost every boss, except for the very last one where it felt I actually had to learn his patterns of dodging these wings on the floor and then attack him afterwards. That's the only time where I felt like, hey, this is kinda how a boss is supposed to be, like kinda. All the other ones just made me spam my attacks, even the ones that looked like they had a certain mechanic, like the guy from China who has a roulette and it just activates different traps on the floor. At first I thought I may have to hit him with the specific element the arrows lands onto, but no, I can just hit him however I want to. I love that you can get their cards too, but you don't simply get them by defeating the bosses, you get them by defeating the bosses and then finding them hidden inside of their levels. Gives you a reason to go back to explore the earlier levels more now that you have all of the abilities to fully explore them, especially the flying ability that pretty much breaks the game. That's why you only get it at the very end of it. You can't fly forever though, and many times you will hit your head on an invisible ceiling, but it's fun to use. I love flying abilities. I wish I could fly in real life and I would most likely crash and die. There's even an Reimu in the game, you know, that shrine maiden from some famous franchise I forgot the name of, even if I just made a video about it. Yep, the guy behind Toho actually worked on this game. I probably would have not found her though if I didn't see a comment on the website where I legally acquired this fine video game. So thank you, random comment. After reading this I just had to find her, and I did. No, I didn't use a guide since she was one of the better hidden ones, why are you asking? All I can say is that Tsuchinoko real. After a bit though, you kinda get the feeling of, well, I have seen everything the game has to offer, except for wanting to see the other cool designs that the developers came up with, like these dogs being stuck in a bowl together. At points it feels more like a tech demo than a fully realized game, but I think they wanted to keep it as simple since it was mostly aimed at kids. But even kids deserve good things every once in a while, and bad things too, to teach them how unfair life can be. Good thing I'm not a parent. The level design only really starts to get going when you're already at the end of the game. It feels that most of the creativity went into the art design of the levels and the demons themselves, but not into the really important part, the gameplay design of the levels. They are very pretty to look at, like the toy block land or the bowling alley, but they lack any real exploration, especially bowling alley. The only thing you really have to do here is turning into a car so you're fast enough to get past these big blocks that come down. And then you just follow the path without any other paths except for meeting this big ball. You could have made cool puzzles here, like having to make a ball-shaped monster and then using it to roll into the pins to get a strike to unlock the next room. It's weird how they didn't do something like that, since shortly after the bowling alley you have to play pinball, but even here it's just a bit lame. Instead of moving the pinballs yourself, they follow you around and you have to get them into these holes like that. Why not make me play real pinball? Why not make me punch the pinballs? I don't get it. In another level, you then have to follow the path that the white statue looks at, otherwise you will just have to repeat the same room over and over. Nothing special, but you know, feels nice that you have to use at least 1% of your brain sometimes. I just wish more levels would have even attempted to do little gimmicks like that, because I'm fond of little things since I'm little. Not where it counts though, like my heart and brain. Even if people would say it's bad to have those two things being big, since you're more at risk of a heart attack when having a big heart. Time to drink 5 energy drinks in a row. Let's take the Space World part as an example of the game being a bit too lazy. It's just a whole bunch of battle arenas after each other. No puzzles, nothing. It looks cool to see these different planets and all of them having their own enemies, but why not also try to mix it up? Instead you just have to fight and fight. Even if I would have played this game as a kid, I kinda would have wished for more substance to it at points. Also, the game really got me here. You have to climb the sand tower, and you get to the top and think, hey, why not destroy the crate and walk over it because it may have dropped an item. So I did that, but instead of a drop, it has a little throw you away plate on the ground that threw me down the whole tower again. I'm gonna be honest, this was on me. My brain lagged and I even saw the plate on the ground, but my brain didn't work fast enough to prevent such tragedy. Also, the OST is composed by the legend himself, Yasunori Mitsuda, who created the best video game OST of all time since he did the soundtrack for Mario Party 1. Actually, it's Xenoblade 2. Others would say it's Xenogears or also Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger, but I mean, just by me saying these games, you know the person behind those soundtracks is a mastermind. And here, it's also true. Obviously, it isn't one of his master works, but it does exactly what it needs to do. Give the game the charm it needs through music too. The cutscenes are also a total delight, and I would have not expected that. I thought it's gonna be a game about creating things and it's the gameplay that will carry it for me, but the reality I got was the opposite. It was the story and cutscenes that made me wanna play more and more. For me it just perfectly hits my kind of humor, and I think if I would have used the English dub, it would have not hit it that much. It just has that distinct 2000s anime humor feeling to me. Jokes and gags you have seen and heard 1,000 times before, but sometimes those are the ones you need.
信じてるよ。なんだわかんないのかよ。使えないぬころだな。こっちが本物。
Every time I saw a new cutscene pop up, I was excited to see how the prince will make fun of the dog or how the dog makes fun of the prince. I just love Brady companions, so this goes out to any Midna fan, play this game. Or Zelda from Spirit Tracks, the best version of Zelda we ever got and ever will have gotten.
前でしょ？私のことを男の子だと思ってたの？いや、そういう意味じゃなくてさ。それとも何？私に女の子の姿に戻っておぶさってろって言うの？
You even get rewarded by getting an ending cutscene in anime form. Makes you maybe wish the game would have a higher budget to have every cutscene to be turned into anime, even though the cutscenes already have so much charm anyways. It's like a luxury problem. One is already great, but hand-drawn will always be better for me. I think a new game like this could actually explode harder than an atomic nuke nowadays. Just have to turn it into more of a sandbox kind of game like Roblox or Fortnite, where you can also build your own levels and add multiplayer. I mean, the game has multiplayer, but it's basically just you battling against the other player, and it's not really fun. It's not like I tried it out much because, well, I don't have friends and I couldn't have played it on an emulator with another person because I don't have a second controller, and yeah. People making their own cute things, sharing them onto TikTok to get millions of views and boom, a new hit. So if any developer sees this, go ahead and create it. I'm sure that will be extremely easy. Just don't forget to make it as charming as this. And well, the PC controls would already make it better too, unless you try to make it too complicated. It still should strike a good balance between easy to use, hard to master. Even though that goes for real 3D modeling too, or anything really. The charm is mostly what the game survives on for me. It's not bad but also not great. Just somewhere in the middle. Like I mentioned earlier, it felt more like a tech demo to me, showing off what's possible with it without ever truly delving too deep into those mechanics. A bit sad, it really would have made it a better game if the game forced you to build some more challenging things, but I also understand the game wants you to build what you want to build and not what the game wants you to build. You just would have to find the perfect balance, which would be easy if the game allowed you to build a new monster everywhere and not just at save points. It's also actually a sequel to Magic Pangle, a game where you can also draw your own creature, but it's a turn-based game instead of being a 3D brawler game like this one. I tried doing a let's play of it back in the day, but had to abandon it because the game ran like shit on the emulator. Probably because my PC back in the day was really bad, and emulation wasn't that great for the PS2 yet. One day I shall go back to that one too. I love how even your dog appears again. Or he actually appeared here first, or she. And how I didn't even bother to remove the cursor from the game in my own video. How and why did I even upload this? I should have been ashamed of myself. I am now ashamed of myself. Why did I upload this? With that said, I would still recommend this to anyone who wants to live out their creativity in an old PlayStation 2 game. And people who love cute things. I mean, just look at some of these designs. It surprises me that this game doesn't really have too much of a cult following. It fits the whole being nostalgic for the early and late 2000s. I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night, or whatever fits your time zone. Maybe I will try to make the best Nier ever now and invest 200 hours into the game just for that. And you should do the same to your own waifu or husbando. Bye bye.